May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord. Jesus had sent his disciples out 2 by 2 to the various towns and villages that he was going to be visiting, letting them begin to preach the good news that God is among them, that his kingdom is upon them in Jesus Christ. And he also gave them the power to heal. The disciples returned. They were excited. They told Jesus what they had done. They were also tired, and so Jesus says, come, let's find a quiet place where we can be by ourselves and rest and talk. And so they got into the boat and went out onto this Lake of Galilee, and obviously they were still seen by people from the shore, and they watched. And as the boat perhaps went north, the people went north. They wanted to see and hear more of Jesus. And so when they finally brought the boat ashore, there a great crowd was gathering. And the comment that is made is they were like sheep without a shepherd. Jesus had compassion on them. He was going to be their shepherd. I remember when I was in Sunday school, there was a picture on the wall of Jesus carrying a lamb. We have a similar picture over here on one of the smaller windows of Jesus watching over a lamb that's on the ground. But here in the picture, he was carrying a lamb, and as we were taught the little song, Jesus loves me, this I know, I looked at that picture, and the two seemed to go hand in glove. There was a visual picture of what God was doing. He was loving a sheep by holding it. The other part of that, though, is a little bit interesting. When you talk about sheep, sheep are not the smartest animal in the world. One fellow says, if you talk about stupidity, you can say there's dumb, there's dumber, and then there are sheep. Sheep comes at the bottom, you see, of the scale. Sheep like to eat. That's what they do mainly. And they have their noses to the ground, and they will eat grass right to the top of the ground, so there's nothing left. This was one of the issues out west years ago between the cattlemen and the sheepmen. Once the sheep flocks came through, there was nothing left for the cattle to eat, so there was this constant friction. But that's what the sheep do. Their eyesight is very poor. They can see clearly for about 6 feet. And so as they move around, they're looking mainly at the grass. And if there is a ditch nearby, it's very easy for them to fall into the ditch. And once in the ditch, they can't get out. They don't have the capability of getting out. If, unfortunately, they land on their back, they're really in a pickle, because a sheep can't right itself when it's lying on its back. Sheep will tend to follow another sheep, and if one goes over the cliff, another would follow blithely without thinking twice about it. So they need a shepherd, you see. They need somebody to watch over them. If they get into trouble, they need a shepherd to pull them out of the ditch. They need the shepherd to bring them to good pasture, to bring them to still water, because the sheep will not drink from running water as most other animals do. And the shepherd knows all these things. The sheep has no defenses. It cannot protect itself at all. And so if a wild animal comes by, the best they can do is huddle together and wait for the worst to happen. They need a shepherd. And so Jesus likens the people here to the sheep. They need a shepherd because they're not capable of taking care of themselves. The people try to manage to get enough work and enough food for the day to muddle through. You know, it's still like today. You eat, you work, you sleep. You eat, you work, you sleep. And that was the drudgery even back then. And the meaning to their lives was missing. They needed, you see, someone who would be a shepherd, who would show them that God indeed cares for them, that the promise made to David 1,000 years earlier was now being fulfilled. They needed someone to bring them together and give them hope. Well, we turn to ourselves and we compare ourselves to the sheep of Jesus' day. I'm talking about the people. We live a whole lot differently. We live in homes that not only protect us from the elements, but when it's cold out, we heat the home. When it's warm out, we cool the home. We make it beautiful. We live in comfort. When we buy a car today, it has to have air conditioning. I don't know if you can buy a car even without air conditioning. I remember back in the 50s, my father bought a 54 Ford, and a radio was still an option back then, believe it or not. Today, forget about it. Most cars come already fully loaded because we want the comfort to be able to go from here to there. We live differently. If there is a medical problem, we just don't suffer through it as they would have done 2,000 years ago and perhaps succumb to it. We go to the doctor. We expect that the doctor will be able to help us. And in most cases, the doctor is able to help us. Are we sheep? I met a woman about 20 years ago. She said, no, we are far more mature. We're no longer sheep. We're able to take care of ourselves. Well, what's happened, you see? We've looked up into the night sky, and scientists tell us that we belong to the Milky Way galaxy, but beyond that are billions, actually, of galaxies. And so a light that we see in the sky might not necessarily be a star. It could be a faraway galaxy, and all those lights come together. It's like Google Maps. You have a picture of the world on your phone, and you open it up a little bit, and you have the United States. And then you can focus in on one state. You can focus in then on New York City, on Richmond Hill. And we can actually, by opening it up, see the church sitting there, or see your home right there. It's amazing. And so scientists have been able to do this and see things that we weren't able to see before. But what's happened here is that as they looked into the heavens, they didn't see heaven. They didn't see God. Well, dummy, you shouldn't expect to see God because God is beyond creation. God is not part of creation. He made it, but he is outside of creation. And so we cannot touch God. We cannot measure him or smell him or see him or in any way scientifically touch him. So what's happened? We've come to the conclusion that we're alone in the universe. And if we're alone in the universe, that makes me and you the king and queen. We can do whatever we want. We're the master of our lives, the master of our fates. And so, so many children are not brought to the church, not brought to Sunday school. The children don't learn the Ten Commandments. These very basic laws that civilization, that society is built on. You say the Ten Commandments, they say the 10 what? They don't know. They haven't learned about Jesus and the love that God has shown us through Jesus, through how he treated people in his time, through his death, and how through that God has done away with our sin, so that this is no longer an impediment between us and God. He has been able to show us what God is really like. And through his resurrection, we know that it is true. But the kids don't know this. They haven't learned it. And so they're out there on their own. Some of them think murder is nothing. They get into a group, they find some cohesiveness in the group, and the group says, we got to kill. Stealing means nothing. They haven't learned what it is to love themselves and a neighbor and God. And so, are we sheep who need a shepherd? You bet. We've increased our scientific knowledge, but our eyesight is still myopic, like a sheep. We can't see. And Jesus always challenges people. He who has eyes to see, let him see. Something that came across my email the other day, and I don't know if it's true, but it says that these were Steve Jobs' last words. Steve Jobs, as you know, founded the Apple Corporation. And the Apple phones that we have, the iPhones, are from his mind. He died a billionaire at 56 years of age of pancreatic cancer. And here are his last words on the sickbed. I reached the pinnacle of success in the business world. In other eyes, my life is an epitome of success. However, aside from work, I have little joy. In the end, wealth is only a fact of life that I am accustomed to. At this moment, lying on the sickbed and recalling my whole life, I realize that all the recognition and wealth that I took so much pride in have paled and become meaningless in the face of impending death. You can employ someone to drive the car for you, make money for you, but you cannot have someone to bear the sickness for you. Material things lost can be found, but there is one thing that can never be found when it is lost. That is life. When a person goes into the operating room, he will realize that there is one book that he has yet to finish reading. The book of healthy life. Whichever stage in life we are right now, with time we will face the day when the curtain comes down. Treasure love for your family, love for your spouse, love for your friends. Treat yourself well. Cherish others. As we grow older and hence wiser, we slowly realize that wearing a $300 watch or a $30 watch, they both tell the same time. Whether we carry a $300 wallet or bag or a $30 handbag, the amount of money inside is the same. Whether we drive a $150,000 car or a $30,000 car, the road and the distance is the same, and we get to the same destination. Whether we drink a bottle of $300 wine or a $10 bottle, the hangover is the same. Whether the house we live in is 300 or 3,000 square feet, loneliness is the same. You will realize your true inner happiness does not come from the material things of this world. Whether you fly first class or economy class, if the plane goes down, you go down with it. Therefore, I hope you realize when you have mates, buddies, and old friends, brothers and sisters, who you chat with, laugh with, talk with, sing songs with, talk about north, south, east, west, or heaven and earth. That is true happiness. I don't know whether Steve Jobs ever heard the gospel or ever really bothered to listen to it. I perhaps think at the end he may have needed it. We need, you see, a shepherd who is going to be there through all of the ups and the downs of our lives. We need a shepherd who is there to pick us up when life treats us ill, and a shepherd who rejoices with us when things go well. We need a shepherd who is going to give meaning to our lives. And meaning is not ultimately going to be found in material things. For a little bit, you know, we all get excited. We buy something new and it's a pleasure and we enjoy it. But ultimately, that fades. We become used to it. We need more, and that more comes from the shepherd who has shown us God's love. A love that outpours itself, overflowing. Our cup, as the 23rd Psalm says, overflows. And that love is with us as we live out our lives, and that love is with us as we die. And we can die securely, knowing that we are going to be caught in the arms of our Lord, just as that little sheep was held in the picture that I saw as a young person. Amen. The peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Our next hymn is 789.